You are looking at the magnificent Table Mountain. It dominates the Cape Town city centre, overlooking the centre and the city hall where we are. And I can tell you that it is sweltering outside, but that's not what's making me and the rest of South Africa hot under the collar. It's this. It's the president's report card after his last SONA address, and that's why we are here today. So let me just quickly remind you about some of the promises he made and some of those he broke. And it's not pretty reading. I'll just quickly go through it. I mean, we know that he's tackling renewable energy, but we are nowhere near close to finessing that. He was talking about reopening priority passenger rail corridors. That hasn't happened. Moving ahead with land reform. That hasn't happened. Taking steps to protect whistleblowers. That hasn't happened. Tackling SOEs. That hasn't happening. But it all boils down to one thing at the moment, and that is load shedding. In fact, there's a march underway on the streets of Cape Town right now calling for an end to that. And Edward Kiswetter couldn't have said it better. He's the head of SARS. He says South Africans are gutful. So we want to find out tonight, hopefully at 7 o'clock, what the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is going to say in his 7th State of the Nation address. We know from the script writers who were talking to a colleague of mine that this is the hardest script they've ever had to write. There's very little good news in there. If there is any, I promise you we will deliver to you. So we're going to be looking for his tone. Is he going to be empathetic? Does he understand what South Africa is going through? This must be one of the most difficult SONA addresses in our recent history. I'm Jane Dutton. This is Eyewitness News, and I'm happy to say that I am joined by Xolile George, the Secretary of Parliament. Very good to have you with us. Sadly, as we sit in the sweltering heat, we're not in Parliament again for the second year. Why not?
Good afternoon, Jane, and good afternoon to Eyewitness News viewers. We are here at the City Hall for the second year, as you correctly put it, because of the unfortunate incident that befell Parliament last year on the 2nd of January that gutted down the National Assembly and the old assembly and the connecting precinct. Sadly, Parliament could not in last year conduct the State of the Nation in that building because it is completely gutted down. However, there's good news to it, as we know that last year the Minister of Finance received representations from Parliament based on the assessment of the damage, and we were glad as Parliament that in the medium-term allocation projections, the Minister gave us indicative allocations that an amount of approximately 2 billion rand will be put aside. And we look forward that when he delivers the budget on the 22nd, that firm commitment will now be put into rands and cents and be appropriated.
So when do you think you'll get it? When can the work start? How long is it going to take?
We are planning to announce fairly soon our plans to reconstruct Parliament, and as media houses you are likely to receive notification from Parliament in less than 2 weeks from now.
Why has it taken so long to get this money? What's been so hard?
Remember, the fiscus is facing many difficulties and there had to be assessment to be done. So one of the first issues that landed on my desk was the assessment on my day of arrival in Parliament. Here is a report that assesses the damage, and on the basis of that report then I had to start putting up measures to quantify that amount and be able to make formal submission requests to National Treasury, persuade them, and we were able to persuade them because of the nature of the damage and the impact it has to the psyche of the nation. So we are quite pleased as Parliament that we are now in a position where we have considered various options to start that work.
Because the DA, they promised to issue a letter of demand, a lot of pressure to open up the venue. They want the Assembly to be in a place, in a position to be able to meet in order to get the work done that needs to be done. When's that going to happen?
Well, it is our desire, all of us as Parliament, to make sure that the functioning of members in both houses is not impeded, so that they can be in a position to discharge their constitutional responsibility. So it does concern me as a Secretary of Parliament. As a result, as we consider the return of members post-COVID limitations, members are now, like anybody else, we can gather for the first time in a full state of the nation, unlike in previous years where we had to restrict number of guests, restrict members on the floor. But now it's a full SONA that will take its all full honors. So it means also we must start looking at measures to accommodate members in a manner that balances where it is likely to require a seating conveniently on a hybrid or sittings that must be full time.
You've got 35 bills to be passed.
Yes.
Are they going to be passed? What sort of impact does this have?
I may not have the specifics of those bills because at any given moment there's a cycle every month on those bills. But
you'll be able to get that work done?
Yes, the work will be done in terms of the houses passing the bills, no doubt. But the point I'm making, Jane, is that Parliament is functioning. We are aware that there is a need for us to ensure as much as possible we facilitate presence of members in a physical settings, and we will do so this year. For instance, members don't have offices. So far we have managed to accommodate more than 250 something members, so we need an additional 155 offices, which we'll be busy with this February and March. Hopefully by end of April we will be able to deliver those 155 offices, so that all members, their offices are restored.
Good.
Back in office.
Let's get back to the SONA address today. Tell us a little bit about, firstly, how much did you spend? Is it 5 million? Is it 8 million? What has been cut back? Is it still appropriate in this time? Seeing, for example, the red carpet. Why do we even have that? It's not Hollywood.
Well, red carpet is not a procurement acquisition that is new. SONA is always there. It gets rolled back, kept, and then it gets rolled in back. But I'm not saying it is not a matter of concern in terms of the context where we are as a country. Yes, rolling red carpets as part of the full honors when you have a full SONA in terms of the protocols that go with it, a full state of the nation address. So it becomes part of the setup arrangements around that matter. With regard to this SONA 2023, as Parliament we budgeted 8.2 million rand as a budget. It doesn't mean the actual expenditure will be like that. For instance, in the previous year, we budgeted an amount of 4 million to utilize the City Hall, and that was only for delivery of SONA. The budget was delivered in the Good Hope Chamber in Parliament. So you could not budget beyond that. So when people look at it at face value, it was 4 million. Now, why has it doubled? But the doubling up of that provides for us not to host SONA. It's SONA today. Next week is replies to the President's address. Tuesday, Wednesday, the President comes back on Thursday, replies. So you budget those days. But for us in this case of 8.2, it's not only for that. We recently, back as Monday, as you will recall, we had a memorial service for our late speaker, first speaker of the Democratic Parliament of South Africa. The memorial service was here. So you can't set up all this broadcasting infrastructure and then 2 days, pull it out on Monday evening, 2 days, because it takes long lead time. So when you hire outdoor broadcasting facilities, because our own facilities were gutted down, so we had to make provisions because it costs us on average 800,000 rand a day to do that.
I'm just going to jump in.
So we are budgeting for no less than 10 days cumulatively to secure that.
Security, we know that the EFF, they like to protest during the speech. What's going to happen, how they're going to be handled if it starts to get a little bit rough?
Well, there's always detailed planning for any state of the nation, and it's multi-encompassing, logistics plan, issues of diplomatic considerations, issues of protocol, and issues of security are integral to the intensity of the planning process. And there are various players, state security apparatus, parliament security is part of that, and there's always a plan to make sure that the event goes according to plan. Rules are applied by presiding officers.
So will you manhandle them? Will you take them out if necessary?
There is a detailed plan
what is
that is always adhered to in terms of enforcing rules of the House.
What is it?
That's the detailed plan to make sure that the event goes successfully.
Lila George, I hope it goes well for you today, and we look forward to looking at some of the pomp and ceremony before the culmination on the red carpet a little later on.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting on the hot seat.
Huh?
So.